Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Texas Outlaw Running Talk Show. This is your host, Briston Rains, and today we have Greg Sisengrath, the founder of Team Dirt and Vert and a coach for Team Ninja. And then we have Jason Bahamundi, who's the co-founder of Team Dirt and Vert and owner of Run, Try, Bike magazine. And these guys thought it was a great idea to go run 250 miles in Arizona. But before we get into that, we're going to go over sponsorships and everything. So every episode I've been putting out for the past couple episodes, we've just been getting more and more viewers. More people are learning about our show. And so if you want to get your business on here, it's like $20 a month, I think. It's on our Patreon. If you guys want to get your business on here, everything's going to be linked in the description. Our Patreon's just Texas Outlaw Running. And so if you want to get your business on here, I'm definitely open to having sponsors for the show. That'd be awesome. But yeah, that's all we got as far as sponsors and everything go in the intro. So guys, whose crazy idea was it to go run 250 miles in the desert?
I'll let Greg handle that first.
My memory is a little lagging, but I actually think it was my idea. Because with the way the, Hard Rock and Western States qualifiers kind of rolled over, because really every year is the same, at least for me, and I think it is for Baja. We just try to get a Western States qualifier and a Hard Rock qualifier. And unfortunately, sometimes that takes two races, and that can be expensive. A lot of times, for me personally, the 200 milers, while it's obviously a physical challenge, there's a financial challenge that I wouldn't typically be able to undertake with the usual race schedule. But with the qualifiers kind of rolled over, that kind of left the whole year open to do what we wanted. So Cocodona actually came at the right time. We had raced in Arizona the year before at Black Canyon. I had my best 100K. I think it was the same for Baja. So as far as that, how that race went and how we executed, it was been wanting to get back to Arizona. That was one good excuse, and it just the timing just worked out pretty well. And I think once we broached the topic together, was it pretty much a done deal. We registered. We did have a few months of before they actually told us that they were going to charge our credit cards. But once that happened, it was. So, I think a lot of it had to do. A lot of it had to do with timing.
How much is the fee for the Cocodona 250? Because I was looking at like the Bigfoot 200, I think, and it was like in the thousand, like
I think
close to 2,000, right?
$1,600, right?
Wow.
It's about $1,500.
Yep.
I mean, they have to pay for all the food and aid stations, and it's a 250-mile trip, so I could kind of see why the entry fee would be that much, but that's a lot though.
It's not just the obviously not just the race fee. You have the van, you bringing your crew out there, and at least hotel for a few days. Half the time they're going to be camping in the van too. But there's just it's a pretty big expense, and that's basically more than a year's worth of racing. And the racing I'm talking about is we're usually in California or Colorado or Utah or somewhere fun. So I have to pick and choose as far as all the fun and all the time I can get away. Plus a full week off of work is it's tough to get to.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So I'm going to tell my story on how this whole thing unfolded because I don't remember it exactly the same. So they announced Cocodona, and Greg did send me a tweet about it initially, and I was all gung ho, but in the back of my head, I'm like, he's not going to want to do this. There's no way. So it was more of a game of chicken. Like we would tweet back and forth for a while, and then one day I get this text message that's like, it's your turn to hit register. And like all the blood left my body. Like, oh my God, he actually did press register for this thing. Well, I guess I got to do it too. And so I hit register, and like Greg said, they don't charge you right away for this because of the pandemic. And then when the credit card charge went through and I got my bill, I was like, whoa, totally forgot about that part of it all.
Yeah.
But
if you were lucky enough to get the stimulus check, then that covered it.
they got a lot to cover though, right? It's not just aid station food.
Yeah.
Think about all the insurance for athletes going from mile 0 to 250, EMTs.
Permitting.
Just, I mean, so much.
Yeah, endless
Permits.
permitting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's crazy. And I want to also, like, the listeners listening. So these guys, they're from like North Texas, like McKinney area, and so I watched their training for this race. I was surprised. Greg had like 20 miles a week, and then I forgot what Jason had. Jason was like swimming or something like that. But these guys, like, honestly, going into it, I was rooting for them. I wanted them to finish, but I knew it was going to be tough. And I saw Greg post on Instagram after they had already finished, saying like the first 50K was like the hardest of his life or something like that. Y'all want to like kind of go into that?
Yeah, so we started out together. I think I don't know if we actually agreed, but I think it just became understood that at least until we found our pacers at mile 72-ish, we're gonna try to stick together as much as we can, because that's so early in the race. We're not racing each other. We're not racing the field. We're just we're trying to survive. So we stuck together through leaving Black Canyon City, and it's a trail that we've been on, and it was fine. And then we, around mile 11, both filled up the aid stations, took our time, ate more than I ever would at 11 miles, and topped off everything. And we were ready. Well, we thought we were ready. And I mean, Baja carried 4 liters. I carried 3 liters, and I could have carried 6 liters, and it wouldn't have been enough. I mean, we, about 2 weeks before, they'd recon that route, and they told us what the elevation was going to be, and it was 8K. It's a ton, but it's hard to understand until you're doing it. And
Yeah,
it was the hardest 50K that I've ever done, and I've done some stupid races in some mountainous areas. So it's indescribable. Not just the heat, because it actually could have been worse. It was the heat, the climbing, everything, and we weren't pushing it either. We're still being conservative. There's definitely people going out harder, but it just, I've never seen so much carnage. We pass the same guys who were laid out on rocks, and then they pass us because we be laid out on rocks. I'll let Baja tell us some stories about his contact lens and other stuff, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit demoralizing too, right? Because you'd sit on a rock for 3 to 4 minutes, catching your breath, getting recovered a little bit. You'd stand up and think you'd be able to go a quarter, half mile. You'd take 5 steps and have to sit back down. I mean, it was rough, and it did. We got dehydrated. For me, 4 liters wasn't anywhere near enough. I got so dehydrated that my left eye contact popped out of my eye, and it just stuck to my sunglasses. And it was like torturing me that it couldn't go back in, right? Yeah, it was awful. But it, like Greg said, it was by far the hardest 50K I've ever done. And if you listen to Maggie Girdle, who won the women's side of it, she said it was the hardest 100K she's ever done. Wow. And I mean, this is a elite champion at all levels saying that.
Yeah, and I mean the race itself, it starts in Phoenix, right? Is it Phoenix?
About
Black Canyon City.
Black Canyon City. It starts all the way in Black Canyon City and goes all the way up to Flagstaff. So like the entire race, you're like just pretty much climbing the entire race from the kind of almost the lowest point to the highest point of
exactly.
And so, man, that's insane. Like that y'all were hurting that bad 50K in, and y'all still had what 220 miles to go.
It's
y'all mentally or?
It's mainly hard because I honestly, and I talked about this, I honestly thought I was going to DNF before we even hit the first cruise station, because I just couldn't comprehend on how bad I felt now, and I didn't think, I just didn't see how my body would ever recover, because I felt so bad so early. And it took probably another half a day before all the cramping and everything started to ease away. But I wasn't quitting there, but I I had doubts on how I could even finish the race after it being that bad.
Yeah. Yeah. How was the sleep deprivation? Because I mean, you guys are out there for 5 days. I'm sure y'all didn't sleep a whole lot, but did y'all have any crazy hallucinations or anything?
I didn't have any hallucinations, but I think I got about 9 to 10 hours. I think Baja was about the same total sleep time, not counting or maybe counting 2 or 3 dirt naps. But
Dang. Wow.
I'll say there's probably no set way to do it, but we talked about, we would do 90 minutes the first night, somewhere wherever we were at between midnight and say 3 a.m. That way, just our logic was we would take a nap, and then by the time we woke up, it would kind of feel like early morning. Some people, I don't run at 4 a.m., but I know plenty of people that do. So it felt like it would feel like somewhat a normal day. So we would do 90 minutes the first night, 3 hours, and then after that, kind of take it as it goes. And that was almost the way that was pretty much how the plan went according to plan. But as far as when we fell asleep, that kind of got pushed back, obviously from the harder section. So I didn't have any hallucinations, but I think I attribute that to how much we slept or how much I slept.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have any hallucinations either. I got closer to 12 hours. After that first night at 1.5, the next 3 nights I was 3 hours easily. And I probably took 4 to 5 dirt naps, give or take, 5 to 10 minutes each time. But hallucinations didn't occur. You'd see a burnt tree stump and it might look like a bear, but it wasn't like, oh my God, there's a bear, I better run away kind of thing. And there was a little bit of delirium, for me at a couple at the end of the legs where like my body was just like, I'm done with this. Like, why are we still walking? Why are we still running? Why are we still awake? But as soon as you got into the aid station, you're able to sit down, refuel, talk with the volunteers and your crew. And then for me, climb in the van and go to bed for, like I said, 3 hours minimum each night.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was looking, so when they first announced the race and everything, when y'all got to, man, so I was expecting everybody to finish like day 3 and maybe like day 3.5, and y'all ended up finishing 4 days, right?
Yeah.
4.5 for me.
Yeah.
4.5. Yeah. So when it got to day 3, honestly, since it was like his first year's race, I knew it was finishable, but like that's a really long race and it's going up the entire time. So like I was really questioning, like I honestly thought like only like 5% people would have like been able to actually finish. Do y'all know how many people actually finished and like dropped out? I want to say like half the field dropped out halfway through or something.
Yeah.
Right?
So about 180 starters, right?
Yeah, and about 110 finished.
Just under 100. Yeah, 100 finished. So
okay.
I think I'm not sure what the DNF rates are for 200s, but as far as the time, I think it's pretty much standard. It was like 105 hour. I think they actually gave us a little bit more time than you would see from like the Tahoes or the Bigfoots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I was talking about earlier with y'all's training, I was kind of following you guys in Strava going into it, and I looked at your miles per week, and it was like barely anything. How did like literally it was like all willpower, which is really awesome to know. So like for myself and everybody listening, when they want to go do crazy races, they know they can just do 30 miles a week and go to the gym and they'll be all right.
No.
So
not
like,
everybody.
Tell us about y'all's like training and if like how much of it was just willpower.
Well, for me, I think, and I think it's the same for Baja. I wouldn't look at specifically what we did training for this. I mean, we did do something specific for this race, but as far as like the volume and training, it was all from the previous years of training for stupid stuff.
Yeah.
So that for me, that's what I leaned on. Where I either way, I wouldn't have time to add that much hours, and even if I wanted to my training. You assured me I did probably had some 20 mile weeks, but they're usually around high 30s and 40s. but that's really just maintaining, everything that I've done in previous training cycles to get ready for races. So a lot of it's mental. It was a lot relying on my experience doing some really hard stuff in the past.
Yeah, I mean, Greg and I are for 100-mile ultra runners, we are on the lower end volume wise typically. So my average volume was probably 35 to 40, but that doesn't tell the whole picture either, right? Like what's taking place within inside those 35 to 40? Are you doing speed work? Are you doing long runs and just things like that that change up the terrain? Like, are you heading across timbers and putting in 13 miles? Or up there, that's equivalent to like 20 miles, right?
Yeah.
So it just depends on what's inside those 40 miles and not just looking at a blank slate of 40 miles, weight vest hiking. And you said, I do swim, so it's a great recovery, but it's also a great cardiovascular component to my training cycle. Plus I ride my bike, 3 hours a week, 5 hours a week at this point. And that's another huge help for leg strength as well as cardiovascular. So it's not just the 40 miles. But I will say this, one of the first thoughts I had when we were done was, if I were ever to do this again, I would put on a weight vest and not just do 1 to 2 hours of, running with the weight vest on. I do, maybe a full loop at Irwin, a full 9.5 miles with the weight vest and trekking poles and be out there for hours on end. Because when it came to hiking, you're in the desert. It's 100 degrees. You got to be prepared to hike that stuff if you're not able to run. And sometimes that can be demoralizing, but if you're used to it, then mentally you're capable of getting through it. So I would add more of that to my training. So then you might even see less volume, right? Because time-wise, you don't have just endless amount of time to train.
Yeah, for sure. And also when Greg talked about how you guys just in the past, y'all have done so much. That's very, very true. I've seen in my own training. So I got injured about 4 weeks back, put me out for 2 weeks, but when I came back, I was immediately faster than I was before I got injured. And that's because I had all the base and everything I built, and it carried with me, and your fitness stays with you for quite a long time. And so, yeah, it's not just what you do building up to it, but it's all your running you've done before. And you guys have been doing it for what, 8 years or something like that? Yeah.
I've been in endurance sports for 14 years.
Wow.
So
yeah, so you guys just had that base to carry over with. That's pretty awesome. Yeah. So I know Billy Yang was out there and Jamil Curry. Did you guys get to talk with any big cats out there, or how'd that look?
We saw Billy at Crown King at least once.
Yeah, we saw Billy at Crown King and a few other times, and the guy that he was pacing I think he was in front of us for a little bit, but he ended up finishing a little bit behind us. So we did see his crew. Unfortunately, I only saw Jam at the very start. So other than Corey Woltering, we saw at Crown King, unfortunately, that's where he dropped. That's the highlights of our elites. I think I just missed Jim Walmsley by 30 minutes because he was running through Flagstaff when a few of the other guys in front of us came by. So
that's funny.
That was a close call.
Yeah.
So I have another one. So after we climbed Eldon Mountain, you get to this aid station, and I go and I sit down in this chair, and this total ultra dude, right? I mean, he is the spitting image of the stereotype of the ultra dude. He's like, "Hey man, take a seat. You want some food?" And I'm like, "Nah, I just want to get the hell out of here. I want to finish this damn race. I got 9 miles to go. I'm done." And he's like, "Nah, have some food. You really should have some food." And I said, "All right, fine." I introduced myself. I'm Jason. He goes, "Hi, I'm Peter." And one of my pacers at the time, Ashley, was like, "Peter, what's your last name?" And I'm going to butcher it. It's like Mortimer or something to that effect.
I know who you're talking about, yeah.
And she goes, "Did you just finish second in this race?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's me." So here's the guy who finished second at the Cocodona 250 is now serving me vegan bratwurst and chocolate cake at the last aid station before you head down to the finish line.
That's freaking awesome.
Which I thought was pretty damn cool, yeah.
At least you didn't say, "Who are you telling me what to
eat?" That's funny.
It was great, though. I spent about 15, 20 minutes chatting with him, and everything he said was true. He's like, "Get some food in you. You'll feel better." You spend 15 minutes with us up here, it'll save you an hour on the way down. And he was right.
Yeah, man. So like whenever you guys finished, how was that? I bet that felt like awesome, but I bet it sucked too, because I bet the few days after were like really sucking on the legs and everything like that. So what was like the finish line like?
Yeah, for me, yeah, it's probably my most emotional finish line. I don't know if you were watching the live stream, but luckily I was wearing sunglasses, so I don't know if everybody could tell that I was crying. But I'm
That's
usually,
awesome.
I kind of pride myself on being even keeled, so I really don't have like during a bad part of the race, I don't have a lot of lows, even though I this time I said I was going to DNF, and I don't really have a lot of highs. So I usually just finish and I'm like, oh, all right, I did it, and that's it. But I think just, all those days of emotion built up, I just, even before we finished, even just thinking about it, I got a little emotional. And when I crossed and, you see your crew, just people that that's been dragging you around for 4 days are all there, and everybody else smiling. I got pretty emotional, and it was it was tough for me to hold back the tears. So yeah, it was definitely my most emotional finish line moment. And there's only, there's not that many people coming in, so
Yeah,
you kind of have everyone's attention on you, so it just adds to that.
that's awesome.
Yeah. I'm the exact opposite of Greg. I cry at every finish line. And so as you're running down the street in Flagstaff, there's a handful of people and they're cheering and they're pointing you in direction towards the finish line. So I didn't know what to expect. You make a right turn into this alleyway. And as soon as I did that, I saw Greg and all of his crew, and then all of my crew, all under the finish line banner. And it was just amazing to see.
Yeah.
Just amazing to see. Plus, it was still daylight out, which was really damn cool for us. And so just running down that alley, it just like all this energy came over me, and I was just overwhelmed. And as soon as you cross the finish line, then the tears started pouring, and just grabbing your crew and just hugging them. And in all honesty, it's just thanking them, right? Because they sacrifice a ton too, right?
Yeah.
They're sacrificing sleep. They're also I mean, I had 3 runners, 150, 180 miles. So give or take 60 miles, 70 miles, 80 miles each. That's a lot of running for them too. So,
Yeah.
and they've got to fuel, and they've got to drive, and they've got to stress about where are you at. And so it's just an outpouring of emotion to have them there, and having Greg's crew there, and seeing Greg's crew all throughout the race. When you get into an aid station and you just have, 7 or 8 people there as a welcoming committee for you, was huge. And so the finish line was just the culmination of all of that.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. And I watched a lot of the live stream, and man, can we just talk about the live stream for a second? They live streamed the entire thing like a football game. I don't know who the commentator was. It was him. It was like, I think it was 2 guys, but I think one guy ended up just doing the whole thing at the end. I can't remember. But I kept on like checking every day for a few days, and they were on there live streaming every single day from like when I woke up in the morning till like past when I went back to sleep. Like, that is insane. Ultra running it's developing, and I kind of like where it's going right now. But that was really awesome being able to track you guys, because I would like check in to see where you guys are, and I keep some people, because I told some of my buddies that y'all were running and stuff. I'm like, yeah, I know those guys, and so I was telling them where y'all were at, and so I would go on a live stream. I'd see just some people going by. I thought it was really cool just how they had everything set up, and they did that for a 250-mile race. So I'm interested to see, how this develops and everything after that. But you guys have any like thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I originally, they did it for Black Canyon 100K, which that was 12 hours for us, so it's still a pretty long time to broadcast an event.
Yeah.
And while obviously I haven't watched the replay, and I wasn't watching the live stream, just from the comments, it was pretty impressive on how everybody was engaged. Because people say, "Oh, we'll follow you," but we're just like a dot moving really slow
Yeah.
across Arizona. but when we finished and we saw some of there's a few, Facebook threads on our progress, you got to realize how many people were watching, just the people that we know were watching and were following, and actually how engaged and in detail when they talked about, oh, I heard they heard that everybody was running out of water. It's like, how did they even know? So they knew sections, and everybody was really involved, and they, even when they saw us slow down, they knew, oh, this is one of the hot sections. And it just it was really cool to see how many people were able to follow alone from home. And it's just it's a tribute to Airvive and what they're doing, because before you can only get that when we were watching UTMB. So other than that, I don't know of any other races that are doing it at this level, so definitely hope it's a trend.
I think Jamil is, with this event alone, and not to mention all his previous events, is changing the way that ultra running gets received by the public. Because like Greg said, there'd be so many comments from people like, man, we loved following you, sun up to sundown, live commentary, all this stuff. And it's hard to fathom that, right? Because you're out there for 4.5 days. I'm like, who the heck is watching their YouTube channel for 4.5 days? That seems
all of us,
bananas, right?
Yeah.
But that's the thing, right? So everybody was, and as a business owner in the media game, right, this is great for me, because if he's bringing attention to the sport that way, then that's going to benefit our business. And so just looking at what Jamil has done in general, right, with the way he's built Aravaipa, the way he's broadcasting these events now, it, to me, and I said this to our pacers, he's putting other race directors for bigger events, right? Not for events that are like 1 or 2 or 3, but for race directors that have, and companies that have multiple events that are really large. He's putting them on notice, because he'll get people to register for his races knowing that they're going to get this kind of coverage versus other people who aren't doing it. So I think this is really a flag in the sand for people to start from and start to make decisions on how they're going to cover their events.
Yeah. Literally, if they had a history book on ultra running, Jamil would have like a whole chapter just based on him. The dude really is changing the game, and he's someone I look up to a lot, and someone who, I try to base my races not just like theirs, but close to theirs in a way. And he's just someone I really look up to. And that dude, man, that guy is so awesome though, and he really is changing the game. And I'm excited to see what he's gonna do, because he's so creative. And I can't imagine. I mean, he made Cocodona 250 and like did this whole thing, and I'm just like, I have no idea what's next for him, but I know it's gonna be something big, because the dude's just innovative. He just keeps on making new ideas and new things, and it's awesome.
Yeah, don't be surprised if you get a UTMB style type of event in Arizona with
they have the trails.
Yep, they have the trails, and they've got the towns outside of Jerome, but they've got the towns that'll support it. And so I think you'll start to see things like that, where you're running 50Ks between towns, where, it's point to point between different cities and towns in Arizona as part of the course, and just building it out from there.
Yeah. And how was running through the towns? Because I know that was a big thing that he wanted to do, to where you guys ran through the towns and it's kind of a part of the community. Did y'all like stop in any bars, or how'd that go?
Now, I think we joked about, man, we're gonna get a burger when we get to Prescott and blah blah blah. But when we realized we were gonna be there a lot behind schedule, that kind of went out the window. But the towns are cool. It's I think I can't remember who said it, but the best way to see a town is on your feet.
Right.
So going through all the different historic towns, even luckily we were in the secret town of Jerome early morning, so people are kind of already up, so we didn't have to be super quiet. It'd probably be pretty weird to go through there at night, since it was apparently a ghost town. But seeing some of the historic towns like Prescott and just a very small part that we got to see of Sedona, at least got to see the landscape more than the town. Yeah, I think it was cool. I like it made it easier, I think, on the crew where they weren't seeing us on um stretched all the way across the trail. They're actually in towns where if if they wanted to get us Chipotle, we were able to get that a couple times and things like that. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to enjoy other than what I saw as I was going by some of the towns. So no whiskey or no some of the finer food, unless the one that they brought to the aid station or to the crew van.
I did get a burger in Prescott. It just happened to be an Impossible Whopper from Burger King, but I
That's
still had a
awesome.
burger in Prescott.
The person
I will,
ordering, or the person taking your order is like, who's this sweaty dude with his bib on trying to
no,
order a Whopper?
fortunately, the crew was able to get it for me, so I just had to sit in
Okay.
the van and eat it. But I will say, so Jerome was pretty neat. And when you leave Jerome, you end up running through this town of Clarksdale
Oh
that
yeah,
I absolutely loved. I was probably about a 50 to 75 feet behind Greg as we were running through Clarksdale. And there were people in their houses, going to their cars, walking their dogs, cheering for us and clapping for us. There was like a coffee van on a
yep.
corner where
I was
people were
gonna
drinking
stop there.
espressos.
That's
Yeah,
I
it
was
was
awesome.
gonna, if there wasn't a line already, I was gonna see if they would take Apple Pay,
yeah,
and I
it
was
was
gonna get
awesome.
coffee.
It was awesome. That town was awesome.
Yeah.
Fortunately
That's
for
so
us
cool.
too, they had the one house had their sprinklers on, so we're able to get our buffs and our hats wet, and before we continued
No.
on through the desert.
Yeah. Yeah. That's freaking awesome though. Yeah, so like like U Team B, obviously the towns go absolutely crazy. Did y'all have any spots that were like huge crowds and like people like, oh, or was it just like every now and then someone was like, oh, good job? How was it?
Yeah, Prescott was pretty packed when we went
Was
through
it?
it, because we were there probably midday, I would
Yeah.
say. And so it was pretty packed in Prescott with people walking through the square and on Whiskey Row and stuff like that. Like Greg said, Jerome, we were there in the early morning, and then Clarksdale was right after that. So that was kind of neat. We ran through Cottonwood too, right? If I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. It was kind of, it was early in the morning through Cottonwood as well. So it wasn't a lot of people there. Um, Flagstaff, by the time I got there, which was about 3 hours after Greg, was kind of silent. And the stretch that we were on, because it was pretty much around dinner time by the time I was running through there. So I'm
Yeah.
sure everybody was at home, enjoying their meals and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I just think it's so cool that he implemented that part into the race, and I was really glad he did because I was watching like his whole documentary or his vlog series of the Cocodona, and I'd watch all of them. And he's like, "Yeah, we really want to put these towns in, blah blah blah." I was like, "Dude, that's a great idea." How I don't know how they course marked 250 miles, but I heard they had like road stickers and stuff because I watched a race brief on it. Was it pretty easy to navigate as far as course markings? Did y'all ever get lost? What did that look like?
We did get lost in the first 35 miles, and that was our own fault. We're all feeling pretty good because we finally sat down and eaten, and we're climbing well, and we picked up a couple guys, and we were just chit chatting, and then some other guy comes running down the hill with his light, and we're like, oh crap! So we missed a turn. I mean, honestly, when we got there, it was marked, and
Mm,
for some reason, neither of our watches beeped that we were off course. So you had to have a navigation either on your watch or on your phone. Usually everybody had both, so I'm not sure how we missed other than we were just chit chatting and
yeah,
missed it. But the course was other than that, I didn't get off track, not for very long. Course was marked where it needed to be, but you really were relying on the navigation. Um, I don't know how you can do it without having navigation, because
yeah,
sometimes you're just you're out and you can barely see a trail. So um, I think the course was marked
It
pretty
was marked
well.
really well. I did get lost once, when you're in Sedona right
Uh,
before the aid
the
station
routes
at the
overlapped.
church. Yeah, the routes overlapped, and there was two slabs of bedrock, and they just looked like a mattress. So I took a dirt nap, and when I woke up, we just went in the wrong direction for about 4/10 of a mile.
mm,
And we got to a point. Fortunately, we got to a point where we were looking at the course and I'm like, this looks really dangerous. Like this doesn't make sense, like for them to put the trail this way. And we looked at my watch and looked at the phones and we're like, oh, we're off course. So we turned around and went back. But otherwise it was really well marked. And as soon as we got back to that bedrock mattress, you could see the blue and white flag that said do not enter, basically. So we just missed it early in the night. That's all.
They had a lot of wrong way markers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's helpful. Yeah. Like so last weekend when I put on the race, there was a few people, I had it like very well marked. It literally had wrong way signs, everything like that. And there were two people, and I guess they were just chatting or something, and they ended up going like a mile the wrong way. And there was a sign there saying, hey, go this way, you know? So yeah, I can definitely understand, like, and I've done it before too. I've done some trail races to where I'm just running, not kind of just in my own head, and you just miss it. You just don't see the signs, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, it just happens though. But I'm glad that they had it to where you guys had like your phones and stuff like that, just to make sure, so you knew for sure, you know, you're going the right way, because without that, it sounds like you guys would have been going some completely wrong direction. So yeah.
Yeah, I got a little spun around before we headed up to Mingus. My watch was telling me we were off course. My phone was telling me we were on course. So just sat in there for a few minutes, just problem solving until figured out, okay, we need to go in this direction. And, you know, spent 2-3 minutes. But when you're talking about having raced 109 hours, 2 or 3 minutes is nothing. So, but otherwise it was very well done.
Yeah. So you guys did the whole, are you guys just done with Arizona? I mean, you explored it all on foot pretty much. And would you guys ever do the Cocodona 250 again? Give us your insight on that.
I don't think I would. I don't think I'd ever do that. Nothing that long, or even 100-miler to do again, unless the only thing to go back is to prove that you can go faster. But I don't know how much that would give me. I would go back to Arizona. Even there's apparently I saw someone's pictures at one of Jamil's courses that goes around Prescott. I guess I can't remember what that race was, but it was on the Watson Lake.
Whiskey Basin.
Yeah, Whiskey Basin actually runs on that course, and I would love to. I'd love to run those boulders again. So there's if there's a race, I'm sure there's a race that goes on those trails that goes around Sedona. Yeah. I wouldn't mind going back there either. I just wouldn't do it all at once. There's just so much pain that I don't wish to have to relive. There's plenty, not plenty, but there's other 200s if I wanted to go that distance again. So I wouldn't repeat it. No offense to the race. Just
yeah. What about you, Jason?
Yeah, I'll be racing in Arizona again for sure. I'm committing myself to already racing Black Canyon in February. Like Greg said, we finished just under 12 hours. I think we could probably knock off another 45 minutes off of that time. So I'm going to go back to Black Canyon. But as far as Cocodona is concerned, that's a huge question mark. Like Greg said, there's only but so many races that are 200s, and so let's go explore the other ones. I would commit myself to doing another 200. I just don't know that I'd do Cocodona again, just not because of the race was poor or bad or a terrible experience. It was quite the opposite, but really more about let's go explore something else. Maria, who is my crew chief, has done Tahoe 200. She's going back again this year, and the idea of running all the way around Lake Tahoe is very appealing. Plus you'll get, different experiences that way too. So, I would explore other 200 milers. But Cocodona would have to then be on the back end of it, right? If you go through all the 200 milers and then start all over again, kind of thing.
Yeah. Was Cocodona, was that y'all's first 200?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah. Do they have any 300-mile races? Is that a thing?
Yeah, well, there's an Infinitus, I think is what it's called. It's a 500-mile race.
Wow.
And you've got the race across Tennessee that you can do, which is, I don't know how many miles that is, but it's a lot. So yeah, they're out there.
Yeah, there's just very few point to point or looped.
Actually, I don't know if I can. So my friend, he has a really insane race idea. It would be like a 1.5 year long race. I don't know if I should say it because I don't want somebody to steal the idea. I'll go ahead and talk about it anyways. Sorry, Asher, if you're listening. No one stole this idea. We're like all right, this is my copyright right here. Is this podcast? So we had the great idea to where they start like the PCT, and they would have to like hike up the PCT and either run or bike from the PCT to the is it called the CT on the right side that goes down from like Maine all the way to Georgia.
There's a Vermont trail over there.
What's that one on the
the
East
AT.
Coast? The AT, yeah. So they would either run or bike to the AT, and then they would hike the AT, and then they would either run or bike all the way from the AT back to where they started the PCT. And if they did it, they would get a little like a little pin in the mail that has like you did it or something like that. It'd be like a super humbling medal. But yeah, that's our little idea we have. And the entry fee would be like $5. And we're thinking like it would take about 1.5 2 years. We're thinking 1.5 years would be quick, but possible. So I think he's gonna actually try and attempt it after he graduates college. So like in like a year or 2 years,
What?
he's gonna actually go give it a try. Yeah. So that's just an idea we had out there, and he said that would be the like longest and hardest race. I was like, yeah, it would be. But yeah, that should be interesting. It's cool to see how far everyone's just pushing the limits on how far you can go, how long you can go, and all these big crazy races. So they're only going to get crazier as we progress. So, do you guys have any like crazy stories that you want to share, like out on the trail or anything like that?
So one of the things that I was jonesing for, and I was thrilled to pieces that my crew chief got it for me, was ice cream. Like I was just jonesing for ice cream, and she wound up getting me 4 Klondike ice cream sandwiches. So clearly I'm answering the question, right? What would you do for a Klondike bar? I'd run 257 miles for a Klondike bar.
That's
right?
Awesome.
But I was so like in love with that ice cream when it came, and it was already partially melted, and it didn't matter. It was heaven, man. Golly, it was so good.
Yeah. Greg, do you have any insane stories for or crazy stories?
I think the craziest story is our new buddy Joel that ran with us for a little bit. We were talking about how we went through that hot stretch, and it's funny. There's no water, obviously, no creeks, but there was one. It looked like maybe there was a spring somewhere, but there is one little strip of maybe 6 inches of mud. And I know everybody had the same thinking that, I wonder if there's water underneath, but I was like, I don't have anything to filter, so just keep on going. But it turned out Joel was so thirsty that he picked up a big clump of the mud, put it into his shirt, and squeezed the shirt into his flask, and then use a different part of the shirt to filter that water from one flask to the other, and he drank it.
Wow. That's actually kind of smart. That's actually smart to do that.
And we talked about, well, he feeling okay, but then we never saw him after like mile 50.
We lost him after mile 52.
So I don't know how long it takes for Giardia to kick in.
Yeah.
Actually, so one of the things that's awesome about this race, especially as hard as the beginning is, you do see, like Greg was mentioning, the same people as you're hopscotching each other. And we started out with a different guy named Joel, who wound up finishing about 15 or 20 minutes after I did, which was awesome to see. But there was these other 2 guys. One guy looked fresh as all get out going up that climb, and one guy looked like the bottom of your shoe. Like he just looked awful. And we saw them at mile 65 at Camp Kippa or whatever, and we chatted with them there. And then when I was climbing Eldon, I saw them again, and they both looked great. I mean, they both flew past me going up Eldon. So one of the things about this long race like this and going through that really tough part in the beginning is you got to see the same people over and over and over again. And then you got to see them again later on in the race. We saw, what was her name, Greg? The woman that did Tour de France, JP.
JP, yeah.
Yeah. So I saw JP on day 4 after having seen her run with her on day 1. So it was pretty neat that you were able to see the same faces over and over again in different parts of the course.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I feel like, did you guys like follow each other on Instagram or something after to like kind of keep in contact a little bit, or on
Yeah,
Strava?
we picked up some more Instagram friends from people that were on the course. So it's good to, I guess it's good to see also how they prepared, how they're recovering. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And the secret to success on going into day 3 is make sure you get the hot dogs at Mingus, at the top of Mingus when you get there, because the
Yeah.
hot dogs were phenomenal. There's a guy, Ryan Ingram. He had it on pictures or a story of him just like inhaling these hot dogs. I know I had 2 of them when I was up there. I'm sure Greg had plenty of hot dogs when
Yep,
he was
I
there.
had to.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, what was the main kind of like food source going into it, or actually for the whole race? Did y'all kind of just have a variety of different things, or was this one thing like you just kept on eating?
Now I had a pretty big variety. We had Chipotle a couple times. I had Burger King,
Yeah.
shrimp fried rice when they got closer to Flagstaff, and I think a couple gas station breakfast burritos. But we had a pretty good range from at least the crew, and then sometimes the aid stations had a little bit more variety. So I ate a ton,
Yeah.
and I don't know how people can go through it feeling lightly, but yeah, I definitely ate a ton, enjoyed all the foods, and again, yeah, I had those 2 hot
That's
dogs at
awesome.
Mingus as well, so I was definitely looking forward to those.
Yeah, the calories y'all must have burned had to be insane. It's like what, 100 calories for every mile or something?
Yeah,
Do y'all
About
have
600
like,
calories an hour. Yeah.
wow, do
yeah.
y'all know how many calories y'all ended up burning from the whole thing?
Take 600 multiplied by 109 for me, and that's the number you'd get.
I don't have a calculator on me. Yeah, if y'all
A
are
lot.
listening, y'all gonna have to do
A
it, but it's a
lot.
lot. It's a lot of that's a lot of calories. Yeah, because I just did like a little bit today, and it was like 966 calories I burned or
Yeah.
something from one run. I was like, dang, and I was thinking about, this was right before the show, and I was like, these guys must have burned an insane amount of calories. Do y'all's like stomachs get upset at all? Because when I finish a long run, my stomach's feeling a little tumbly. Do y'all stomachs like get messed up or anything like that?
My stomach was
I didn't.
good for the whole race except for the last day where I'm not sure how much we want to share, but basically it only took for about 1 mile before whatever I ate was coming back out. So that went on for about a half a day or maybe less. I just That's not something that I typically experience. I'm usually my stomach's pretty strong, but either it was just too much, too much gels for 3 days, or just too much sugar from down in Cokes at aid stations. I had to go a little bit lighter, and then until that all kind of settled on its own. So yeah, that was the first time I've really had that at a race.
Yeah, and for me, it was, I had, the sports nutrition type stuff for the first day and a half, 2 days, and I started getting like these sores in my mouth where I couldn't eat that kind of stuff anymore.
Mm.
And so, and don't tell Jen Kirkpatrick this, our other co-founder of Dirt and Vert, but I quickly switched to oatmeal. So what I would do is I'd roll into aid stations, I'd have Ziploc bags, I'd have them pour 2 pouches of oatmeal into each Ziploc bag, and I had 3 of them, add water to it, and just make it into like mushy baby food. And then I would eat that every hour on the hour, and it was heaven sent, because I could stomach it. It provided some hydration with the liquid, and obviously long burning carbs with the oatmeal. At one of the aid stations, they didn't have oatmeal before we climbed Eldon, but they had instant mashed potatoes. So instead of using oatmeal, I just put instant mashed potatoes and honey in the Ziploc bag and used that to eat. But I didn't have any stomach issues. I went to the bathroom as regularly as you can during a 250-mile race, but nothing where I was like, problems up ahead. So
Yeah. Yeah. What did you guys' like family and friends think about y'all doing this? Because if I told like my mom or dad or my grandma, hey, I'm gonna go run 250 miles, they would like I don't even know what they would think. Like, what are your coworkers? What do they all think about this?
Yeah, well, Fiona was pretty shocked at first. It's like, really? But then I really don't I don't think she was that surprised. So I think it was the shock that I actually decided. But that's as far as family, my parents are kind of used to it now. Not obviously the 200 part, but they are used to the crazy stuff. So not sure how much more. 100 miles is a lot. Is 257 miles that much worse? When people are used to using 5Ks as your point of reference. So yeah, that's my only one person at my workplace knew that I was doing it just because he was the one backing me up. So he definitely thought it was crazy.
Yeah.
But fortunately for me, I surround myself with runners, so I feel less crazy.
Yeah.
I got questions, and not why are you doing this kind of stuff, but like,
Yeah.
so tell me, when do you sleep? When do you eat? What are you eating? Where are you sleeping? How far do you plan on going? One of the guys that owns the company that I consult with is a Navy soldier, right? Retired Navyman. So everything is strategic, and if you're going from point A to point B, how much stuff do you take from in this section, and then from point B to point C? So it's really more a strategic conversation than not. Otherwise, they don't ask any more questions about the craziness. Isn't it crazy? No, because we've already done enough crazy things. Now it's more questions about strategy behind getting from point A to point B.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, you have to think about like to a normal person, if they're hearing this right now, like I say normal person. We're all normal people, kind of. We just like to run far. But people who don't run, they're like, yeah, marathon's far, and 26 miles. And when they hear 250, it's like it's like they heard about like aliens are real or something like that from the government. So yeah, it's really cool to see like
We saw
reactions
some
from
aliens,
people.
right?
Yeah, Chris did anyway. I didn't see any of them. Saw the video.
Yeah, I actually, yeah, it was like Tuesday. It was like I woke up at like 5:30. We were in a tent, and I look up in the sky. When we were camping out at the state park, I look up in the sky and I see a line of like 200. They look like stars, and they were all moving in a line. And so I got off, and I was like, bro, I woke up. My guy that was sleeping in the tent with me. I was like, dude, look. I was like, it's aliens, and I was like, it's not drones, it's not plane. So I was set like it was aliens, and he looks it up. It was like some Starlink satellites or something like that. So
That's what we saw.
I was like, you ruined
Yep.
it, dude. You ruined my alien story. So yeah, I bet the sky. So was the sky like pretty open out there? Because I'm sure there's like not a lot of light pollution at some sections of it.
There's definitely a half moon. First night we were climbing, we were on top of the Bradshaw Mountains, so we were other than Eldon, or yeah, I guess it's third highest part of the course, and it was, even though it was a half moon, it was still pitch dark, and all you could see were the stars. I think on that stretch I saw a couple of shooting stars, so
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. But yeah, it was Arizona is amazing at night.
Yeah. Yeah. Did y'all see any like aliens or anything? Did y'all see government's about to release information on if like aliens are real, like Congress or something like that? Trump gave them like a deadline, and they got to reveal it to the public. Did y'all see that?
I didn't see that, but we did see the string of apparently it's Elon Musk's
Yep.
satellites, and that's not something again I never knew that existed. So
yeah, I didn't either.
luckily we got people told us about it, and then I saw it for myself the second night.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I saw him going through the sky, and I guess a lot of people saw him, and a lot of people were reporting UFOs or something like that. So did you already know like they were the Starlink satellites before you saw them?
I didn't. Oh, I did, but I never heard it prior to this race.
Yeah. What about you, Jason? Did you already know, or did you see him?
No. The only time I saw him was when one of the members of Greg's crew showed me the video, but I didn't really notice it. And I'd never heard of it either, too. So it's all brand new to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I really do like, I know this is a little off topic, but do you guys think like aliens are real?
Why not?
Yeah.
I do. We had that conversation on night 2.
I think they are. I really do. I mean, we're about to find out. Government's about to have to release whatever they know. Yeah, I think it's legit. I don't know. You see all these conspiracy theorists, and I saw this meme too. It was like conspiracy theorists, and there's like them eating popcorn, and it's like when the government releases that UFOs are real, and it's like they already knew, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it should be interesting. Like, man, I think we would all, you know, function as normal if we knew aliens were real. You know, if the government was like, hey, yeah, aliens are real, this is what we know, you know. I don't know. I feel like society would be pretty tame about it, hopefully. They wouldn't just go crazy or anything. That's kind of like scary to think about though, that there's extraterrestrials. There might be extraterrestrials, and if they are real, that there's these other beings like studying us, you know?
Yep.
Yeah. They're probably like, why are these guys running 250 miles in the
Yeah.
mountains? Like, is this like what they do
Exactly.
for entertainment?
Exactly.
They probably can't even like comprehend, you know, running and everything like that. So, um, but yeah, man, this was a good show. This one is definitely going to get like a lot of attention. A lot of people are going to hear about you guys and hear about y'all's, you know, brands and everything. Do y'all guys want to like promote anything for all the people? Because we're probably going to get a lot of listeners on the show, this episode specifically. So do you guys want to promote y'all stuff?
Yeah, for me, just follow Team Dirt and Vert on Instagram. Find us on with Facebook. You'll figure it out. So yeah, just come around with us.
Yeah, and I'll promote my company, which is Run Try Bike Magazine. You can find us at runtrymag.com on the web, as well as using that same handle on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So if you're interested in getting involved in endurance sports, running, swimming, cycling, and triathlon, check us out. Everything is written for the beginner so that you can get a feel for where to start in these fantastic sports of ours.
Yep, that's awesome. Yeah, and for Team Dirt and Vert, so they're doing runs. It's every Sunday, right?
Yep.
Every Sunday, yeah. So every Sunday at Irwin Park, 7:30, right?
7:30 a.m.
7:30. Yeah. So if you're listening and you live around the Dallas area, come up to Irwin Park, 7:30, and they literally have people from like walking in the back to some fast guys joining in the front. So you get like all variations, and it's super cool group of people. They're all fun to talk with, and yeah, you'll be able to talk to these guys in person too if y'all want. But yeah, you guys should definitely check out Team Dirt and Vert. I'm a big supporter of them. I've been going out to like their runs and stuff for like, I don't know, I think my first came like a year ago or something. But yeah, and then yeah, definitely go check out Run Try Bike magazine too. He actually sponsored one of my events, and a lot of people got like the magazines and everything like that, so that was super cool. And I checked it out myself. It's really awesome though. So yeah, I think that wraps up pretty much everything, guys. I appreciate everyone listening. I appreciate you guys coming on, taking your time to come on here and just talk about running. I really appreciate that. And so our next episode will probably be in like a week or two, and I'm just gonna be talking about the race I put on. I'll probably have a guy that came on and like ran it and stuff like that. But that pretty much wraps everything up. Make sure you guys leave a 5-star rating, please, 5 stars, nothing less. And then subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcast, and we're on Spotify as well. And that's pretty much everything. So thank you all for listening, and I'll see y'all in a week or two on Saturday. So that's it.